What's the worst thing you can do for productivity? I've got 3 tips for you, fitness or health coach, because I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Fitness Marketing Mastery, where I share marketing and sales strategies. And today, really, get shit done strategies so you can eliminate some of that foggy, too much to do, so many things to do feeling when you're swimming in, I know I want this to happen and that to happen, but maybe uncertainty about what it is you should be doing. That we'll talk a little less about, but today is how do you set yourself up once you know what to do so that you can do it. And today and this year are big pivotal moments in the history of fitness and the fitness industry. It's been a tough, challenging time for a lot. It's been an opportune, rich opportunity for many others. I want you to be the latter. So, if you work specifically with women in menopause and you want to grow your business, stay tuned because we've got something coming up this month, special masterclass talking about how you can avoid the 3 most common mistakes made marketing to women, and number 2, 3 common errors most trainers are making when they're working with women who want to get more fit, want tone, want definition, want weight loss and belly fat, but they're backfiring. The means that they're using are backfiring, not getting their clients better results, but actually making them worse. If you want support, you'll want to stay tuned. Fitnessmarketingmastery.com and hop in to one of the many ways that I can help you get the tips. And you'll find it at fitnessmarketingmastery.com right there on the homepage. How do you get started? How do you do what you need to do? Let's dive into this. Having to get things done can either be the best or the worst thing for your productivity. Some of us perform really well under the gun, and others of us not so much. So, if you're in a habit of waiting until the last minute, in other words, you're probably a perfectionist. Here are 3 tips to help you get things done easier without the cortisol escalating adrenaline rush that may not actually produce your best work. Now, I think I mentioned it takes one to know one. Basically, yes, that would be me. I do procrastinate. I often am waiting, right, for that great idea. If I don't have it right away, if I have one, I'll dive right in and grateful for the extra time. But right now, the pace of life is pretty accelerated. And so I'm often having to leave things to the last minute. Here's how it is. You've got programs and you've got workouts to write. You've got blogs and articles and videos to create. You have follow up emails or canceled appointments to reschedule. When does all that happen? Well, some things have to happen at the optimal times, and others can happen whenever. Once you figure out when you are most creative, you can schedule the things that require the most brain power, and then these tips will come in handy. So, I'm sharing what I've learned and how I cope when my attention span wanes. You can't go from 0 to 6-figure months. Yes, 6-figure months randomly getting things done. Here's how I did it. So, the absolute worst thing for productivity is to open another Word document and start a new idea thread. Yeah, and I try to do that all the time. It's usually an equally important or urgent task, so I can justify it. So, if I don't keep a list of what I need to get done and when, and then translate that into blocks of time, weeks before that actually needs to be done, I will focus on that thing and I'll get to the last minute with too many things on my plate and nothing gets done. Or I'm up late, I'm up early working on a thing, and I have to release it or publish it with errors. And I'm a quick start, so I will do that. I will like, okay, it's up, it's done. And often my customers are correcting me. Yikes, right? But that probably in part will never completely get done. But there's a way for all of us. If you're a little bit like me, we can avoid some of that. So here's how I handle it. Even though I know this is still problematic for me, it still happens. So we've got to figure out a way to avoid it. The publishing calendar that I create for myself, and I happen to do that, by the way, every year in October, because by October, by mid or late October, when I try to get away or I do a staycation, but for me, it actually works best to get away out of my current environment. I've already got 10 and a half months of data from what were the most popular topics, what were the biggest number of downloads from certain topics in podcasts, what were the pages based on looking at being able to look at blogs that got the greatest amount of traffic naturally, organically. So, what titles are people looking for? I can then start looking at what do I want to repeat? What do I want to stop doing? What do I want to repeat for 2022? So when I get started on things weeks before, I'm the most creative, right? So it's like I love actually sitting down to plan that annual calendar. The creative in me hates when there is a calendar that I have to stick to, but it works better for business. It works better for everyone involved in my business. They know this is going to be the content. So be ready for resistance. That's what I want to call your attention to. Because if you too are a creative like me, I resist doing the work that I've put into my publishing calendar because it feels like I'm backed into a corner. Like I can't express myself creatively anymore. I have to like use this topic. But I have to remind myself that I still have latitude and I can think about the different treatment of that topic and ways that I can use to engage my audience and still apply creativity there. So now I feel like, okay, this still will be a fun project. A creative mind, like so many entrepreneurs have, hates to be put in a box and told to do a certain thing. I never work well like that. You know, when you go to meetings or conferences and people are put into groups or individuals are asked on the spot to come up with something, I don't perform very well in those. I need to go away, get quiet, play with the ideas, marinate them a little bit, and then come back to it. And then I love to share, but I'm often at a blank if I go to a conference and it's like, great, right now, do it. We want to know your answer. I'm like, no, not going to happen. That's where you find people are asking for. I'd love some white space, right, between sessions so we have time to do this kind of work. That's why a lot of hot seats work well for me and others. It's why I do 12 of them in the accelerated 12-week Build Your Business Mastermind course. You and I can see somebody else's problem so much more clearly than we can see our own. So instead of saying, here, work on this, and then share your answer during sessions, you just present your problem, your challenge, your question, and let other people's brains go to work on it. And when you hear their ideas back, and sometimes this is so true, when you're declaring and defining your problem, for others, you gain clarity yourself. Ideas will come to you. It happens to me almost every time. And that ends up freeing up your own personal ideas. It's a win 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 because everyone involved gets something from hearing the problem, hearing the answers from others who are not emotionally attached to them, right? So if we're sitting in a group with five people and I'm saying, here's my problem, four other people are not emotionally attached. It's not their baby. I am. So that's going to stifle my ideas, but it's not for them. They can see things with a different perspective that I wouldn't even have thought about. And then it kind of frees up some ideas that I can come up with and generate. And all of that is beneficial, no matter if it's your question or you're helping someone else, or maybe you don't have a lot of ideas for this particular one, but you get to listen and you get to put them all into your pot and let them marinate for you. The second worst thing for productivity is to for me, make myself work through a longer block of time than my brain wants to focus. Don't know if you know this, but research tells us that sleep cycles last about 90 minutes. And not all that recently, it's been probably 10 or 15 years. We've realized that daytime alertness focus cycles also replicate that. Your brain will wander at about 90 minutes, and your productivity takes a nosedive if you don't take a break. Think about it. I mean, have you noticed this? I love to work first thing in the morning. So I get up and I'm actually the most creative. And it's that like post sleep or pre sleep kind of you're in a fog, and it's kind of this, you have the ability to tap into creativity that you may not otherwise. It's how what you do right before you go to bed can actually influence your dreams. You can ask yourself questions. Your subconscious will, during sleep, come back to answer them. That may be a little woo woo for you, but it's very possible. So you have that same kind of haze right before you wake up. You're not filtering things like I should do this, shouldn't do that. You're just creative. I love to use that time, but I will also find that, even if I have a block of I've got 4 or 5 hours before I need to do anything or get moving so that I can then make my appointments later, I will find like I'm starting to look around for something else like at 90 minutes, right around there. Inevitably, it happens every single time. So, a productive break is an exercise break. It clears your head, it increases circulation to your brain. So, the Western world has made this productivity mistake forever. Those 8 or 9 hour days and or 10 or 12-hour shifts, it's like in the medical world and in kind of some forward facing businesses have also done this. They really don't lead to more productivity. You know how we most recently know? The pandemic proved to companies that when people are allowed to work at home, most likely giving themselves more breaks, they got more done. People were happier. Many companies considered not bringing people back in or doing so in a limited capacity and allowing people to choose. So while it doesn't work for everyone, if you have a job that requires creativity, problem solving, it's most likely best to work in short sprints of focus, like 90 minutes, 2 hours at the very most, and then leave a project and come back to it later. Here's how I avoid the number one worst thing for productivity. I take myself out of my environment. And I do it in two ways. Number one, I work in the dark. And I'm not kidding about this. I can get more done working from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. than I can from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Same 2 hours, 120 minutes. But for me, it works so much better that way. So much so that I was staying in a house a couple weeks ago with my brother and sister in law, and they were upstairs and I was in the downstairs level. So, middle, there's just the walk in level. Nobody was sleeping on that level, but that's where I would get up and go to get my computer and, start mashta. I have two mashta lattes every morning while I'm working. And they would leave the light on to the upstairs in case somebody got up, I'm sure, so they didn't stub their toe or stumble down the stairs. But when I would get up, I would turn that light off just because I like that cave like, it's just me, it's just my thoughts, it's just my computer working on problem solving. Yeah. Okay. Strange, right? Okay. The second thing I do to take myself out of that environment is I literally go somewhere else. So I mentioned this earlier. I've not done a lot of this, but I plan to keep it in my arsenal because it worked really well. Pre COVID, I went to Maui to watch my son golf, and I had extra days to work and to relax. And this was the first week in November. I usually like to do my year planning in October and at the very latest in November. So, first couple weeks there. And had extra days to work and relax. The two for me shouldn't be isolated, but instead have to coexist together. So, you need those mental breaks and the freedom to play and be in an environment that you totally love, but is totally different than every day. Last year, I went to Sedona for 2 nights. So for me, that's about an hour and a half drive. And I got filled with hikes and inspirational views, breathtaking, and then worked very early mornings. I had a midday work break, like after I would come back from a hike, have lunch, and I'd sit down and work because that movement actually inspires me to do it again. Then I take a later, day hike and kind of finish the day setting myself up for what am I going to work on tomorrow? What are my goals for tomorrow? So when I get up, I'm hitting it. Last week, I did the exact same thing in Colorado. I hiked every day, and after and before, I spent blocks of time creating the content for the new accelerator mastermind for fitness business coaches next year and touching base with our Flipping 50 community. So I was going live every day, talking to them. So it's finding ways to work and play at the same time. Okay, the third worst thing for productivity, maybe too much forced productivity. So I've alluded to this, but this kind of white space is usually missing from trainers' days. So that's an old cliche that you've got to work on your business, not just in your business, meaning that you can't just schedule training session after training session and then leave no time to develop the business plan or even the workouts for that matter and systems that help you do things more efficiently and to realize what are your biggest sellers, what's the most popular thing, where's the point where you spend the least amount of time but that get the greatest amount of revenue. You can't really have time to reflect and think about that if you don't leave space, if you just book yourself solid. And I know that there are books by that literal title, Book Yourself Solid, that suggest that's what you want to do and that's successful. But it's really not. You want to build your business from the beginning the way you want it to be. You'll sink really fast if you book yourself solid. You paint yourself into a corner because you're so busy with clients that you are too busy to focus on scaling. You can't scale one on one sessions unless you could keep raising your rates from 100 to 150 to 200 per session and so on and get clients to pay it. At some point, you'll be aiming at too small a pool to make that work. When do you work your best? When are you most creative? When can you think and you focus the best? For me, and thanks to cortisol, it's morning. It may not be true for you. So I've made two changes in my business life over time. Number one, I don't work out right away anymore. So it used to be, I would get up, have a little coffee, and I would go for a workout. Within the first couple of hours of waking, that was my habit. Now I work out for 3 or 4, sometimes more hours first. Sometimes I'm up at 5 and I'm working till noon and probably have gotten more done than most people get done in 2 full work days. But that might be my first break. If I'm really like into something and I need to finish it and be in it, because I will work out, won't you? I mean, don't you, Hardy? That's a given. So it's like you don't need to do that first because you're going to do it. You're just that person. But I can't force that creative time. I can't make that happen and decide from 2 to 5, that's the time I'm going to be creative. It won't work. Not for me, but you've got to figure out what's your time. So, building and growing my business was the way I discovered the foundation behind menopause fitness. This is really meta, really, right? So, never forget you should walk the walk your clients walk. Yeah, there's not a word missing there. It's not walk the talk or talk the walk. It's you should walk the walk your clients walk. The more like them I am with jobs and families and a desire to be fit, the easier it is to relate to them. They imagine fitness professionals work out all day. That's what they think a trainer does. You just work out all day. Must be great. You can do that anywhere, people say to me. I'm like, yeah, okay. You have no idea. Okay. But that's my sister in law. All right. None of that could be further from the truth. If you truly run a business, you are not working out all day. And never should you be. Just because you used to do face to face training sessions with people and now you do them online, whatever would make you have a limiting belief that you need to work out in order to justify the fee that you're charging. So not true, but crazy. All right. You would never suggest to a customer that they exercise 4 to 6 hours a day, and you can't either, right? So, the other thing that I've made the change in my business life over time is I don't allow calendar appointments to be booked till noon. So, my hours available are noon to 5 during, whatever time zone I'm in at the moment, but noon to 5. So, I'm working from the moment I get up from 5 a.m. until noon. That's the time I have to do my programming, my work. I may have a couple meetings with team people who can't schedule it later in the day. And that's when I have to fit in my workouts. So that's the only potential time that I can do it. So that's how I became like my clients and discovered. So I was working from early until noon, and then I would take a break and say, embarrassingly, I'm going to get out of my pajamas. And in order to do that, when I change my clothes, I'm going to exercise and then shower. And then I'm going to be in my afternoon work session. So that's how I discovered the After 50 fitness formula for women and that it works better than more exercise, all the time exercise, better than calories in, calories out, and all of the myths that you've been led to believe over time. But I guard my time. So, two ways, right? I work first, I'll exercise later because I now know a short workout is not just better than nothing. No, a short workout is better than everything else. So, I also don't allow calendar appointments for me during the time I'm most creative. There is an appointment there. It's me with me. It's me with the program. It's me with the next level, the place I'm taking the business. So I'm working and I'm working out depending on the day. And I might be responding to emails after 9 or so. I don't open a browser until after that. I know a lot of people will check their revenue the first thing in the morning. I don't. I know it's going to be there. I know there's going to be some predictability there. My team knows how to reach me via text if they need to, but otherwise, I don't open a browser. I don't pick up my phone until about 9 a.m. So, is productivity an issue for you? Is it that you don't know which tasks are the highest priority? Or is it that you can't focus due to too many distractions? I'd love to know if any of the tips that I've given here about how I manage my productivity have helped you. You can leave your comments at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/productivity tips. And what are you waiting for? The world needs you and I right now more than ever. And don't get in your own way. Don't believe being busy is actually being productive. You've got to think about whatever it is you're doing right now, every day, all day, when you're at work, is the same way you want to be running your business next year. And if it's not, that is the work that right now is your highest priority. The world needs you now more than ever. Can't wait to hear from you. Fitnessmarketingmastery.com/productivity tips.